And we are live again with our last great comms debate of the year. Welcome, everybody. We've been doing a few of these, but we're hoping that today we have the greatest comms debate for you all. It's the last one of 2020, so I think it's going to be a good one. We definitely have a good lineup. First of all, before we get started, one thing we like to do here on these sessions is see where everybody is calling in from. So you see on the right-hand side of your screen, you have a little questions tab. Just type in there where you're calling in from and hit enter. It's really cool for us to see the kind of global spread of people calling in. And of course, while you're doing that, in case you don't know SMARP yet, SMARP, of course, is an employee communications platform that enables you to send targeted, personalized communications to every employee, whether they work in an office or are on the front line. That said, we're obviously not here to talk about SMARP. We're here to hear from our amazing guest speakers. And here they are, Kerri, Liliana, and Guilherme. Thank you guys so much for agreeing to join us tonight, this morning, this evening, wherever you may be. If we could get a quick round of introductions before we get into the actual topics at hand, that would be great. And Kerri, maybe you wanna start us off?
Sure, absolutely. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And Alex, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm so excited to have some fun for an hour with these great fellow debaters. So yeah, I'm Kerri Warner. I lead employee communications for Mastercard, and along with my rockstar team, we drive a remarkable impact, we hope, to our business and our culture by inspiring, engaging, educating, and connecting employees to the business, to each other, and to the world. We have three audiences, as I call them: desired, hired, and acquired. So it covers recruitment, marketing, the folks we want to bring into Mastercard, all of our colleagues, and those companies who have employees, companies that we're acquiring. And I am based here in Purchase, New York. And contrary to popular belief, we did not name the town Purchase, although we are Mastercard and we are not a credit card company. We are the network through which payments flow, but we're really much more than that. We're really focused on building a sustainable digital economy that works for everyone, everywhere. So again, thanks so much for having me. Really excited.
Thanks, Kerri. Thanks for being here. And I remember I heard that you're based out of Purchase, New York, and that can't be a coincidence. That just can't be a coincidence. But thanks for joining us today, and great to have you here. Liliana, how about you go next?
Thanks, Alex, and thanks for inviting me. Hello, everyone. I work for Iron Mountain as part of a fantastic global communications team. I manage global projects for communications, and I also work together with the Europe, Middle East, and Africa leadership team, increasing and engaging storytelling and connecting people with the strategy. Thank you.
Great, and thanks. And where are you calling in from today?
I'm today in Budapest, Hungary, actually.
Awesome. So we have two different countries represented by now. Let's see if we can get a third from our speakers. Guilherme, how about you go next?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the invitation. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're dialing in from. Guilherme Santana. I am Brazilian by birth, German by zip code. I'm based in Germany, and communicator by trade. I am currently heading digital transformation, change management, and communications for DHL supply chain, so that's warehouses and transportation across the globe for our customers. And I'm very thrilled to be here. Let's get started.
Let's see what we can do. And we've already been talking about Guilherme about having some Brazilian barbecue after this, so looking forward to that. But yeah, we have three speakers from three different countries, and I see in the chat there's people like right now I'm seeing Canada, Singapore, Lithuania, Barcelona, Edinburgh. I'm seeing a lot of global spread. Like Singapore, it's literally midnight there, maybe 11 p.m. So really cool to have such a global audience here with us today. And just before we get into the actual topics of debate today. Just a few quick housekeeping issues. There will be 6 debates, similar to if you've listened into a prior comms debate, very similar fashion. Our speakers will have to briefly either agree or disagree with each statement, and then we'll open up the floor for roughly 5-6 minutes of open discussion amongst the speakers. Now, during the debate, while our speakers are going at it, like we like to say, while our speakers are going at it, feel free to drop in questions into the questions tab. We will be doing Q&A kind of throughout the session. We typically notice that the debating the statements goes so long that we don't have that much time for open Q&A at the end. So please put in your questions whenever you have something relevant, and we'll try to surface those. And of course, my marketing manager would have my head if I didn't ask you to tweet and post about the debate on LinkedIn and Twitter with the hashtag #GreatCommsDebate. Really cool to see also the audience spreading the word on those channels as well. But without further ado, I think we can go ahead and get started with the first statement. And the first statement, I think, is something that everybody will be kind of, you may have heard of this concept called COVID-19. So, of course, the global pandemic that has been wreaking havoc throughout the world this year, and that is obviously, for better or for worse, changed some things. So the first statement reads: "The changes brought by COVID-19 to how we engage our employees are here to stay." Now, first, before we open it up for discussion, let's do a quick round. Let's see whether our speakers agree or disagree. And Guilherme, how about you go first?
Thank you, Alex. I do agree with this statement. I think that there are a number of changes. Most of them are here to stay, definitely.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to hearing why you think so. No. Like don't.
I think that we have learned a lot with digital tools. I think all organizations got a boost on that aspect. I doubt that, for example, face-to-face meetings are not going to be a reality in the future post-COVID, but definitely we'll start collaborating and working differently. So from that virtual perspective, definitely something that is here to stay.
All right. Liliana, how about you?
I disagree.
All right, there we go. That's what we like to see. All right. Do you have like a quick explanation on why?
Because I can see the future in it. So it's not that things will stay, things will further improve.
So you're thinking that they won't stay the same. They'll go even further. Okay, I like that. I think that's reasonable. And Kerri, I saw you dropped out for just a second, but you're back. You're back.
Yes,
here.
I am back to agree. I am back to agree with G.
So you agree with G. So we have 2 agrees and 1 disagree. Although Liliana, you had some explanation there, but I'd like to hear, Guilherme, you quickly mentioned some explanation on why you might agree with this statement. But Kerri, what's your kind of logic for agreeing behind this statement?
Yeah, so it's been such an interesting time, I think, for so many of us, and what might have taken years happened over a course of months because we had no choice. And when we have no choice, it's amazing how people really shine and step up. I think we've all really realized now that work isn't where you go, it's what you do. We have done, I think, a pretty good job of engaging with employees, at their kitchen tables, seeing kids pop into Zoom. We've seen, one-on-ones and small group, and we've had webcasts and podcasts and DJ dance parties, all kinds of things we've done to engage employees. And we've been sort of tasked with thinking more creatively about how we do that. I don't think those things are going anywhere. Our employees have also said, and I think employees in many places have said that, they want more flexibility in where and how work gets done. Our engagement scores are incredibly high. Productivity is high. And so I think some of these changes, many of them are here to stay. And, I'm really glad to see that. In terms of technologies, agree as well. I think, we're just getting started on the kinds of things that we can do. How can you have effective storms when you're virtual. And at the same time, the office is a place, and rethinking, what is the future of work? What purpose should the office serve? Place of culture and collaboration and client events when those times come. So I think we're going to sort of be rethinking all of that, and that's a really positive thing. So I do agree in how we engage employees, and frankly, probably our customers as well will change.
Yeah, absolutely. You had a good example there. The kids popping in and out of Zoom. I had a kid of a friend in first grade signed into the first day of school by holding up a QR code on their head to the camera and just.
I love that.
Yeah.
The other thing we've also seen is, and I'm curious if my fellow debaters have as well, but we've seen some vulnerability and honesty in employees and in our leadership teams that just was always there, but probably wasn't as much at the surface as it was before this crisis hit all of us in different ways. And that's been positive too. Right.
Well, Liliana, you mentioned that you had a soft disagree there, but you said that, things necessarily won't stay the way. They're still going to continue to get better. Maybe you could expand a little on what you're talking about there.
Absolutely. So what was happening from the start, what has been happening from the start of the COVID-19 is basically was firefighting, I think. And from now on, we have to get used to it, that we have brand new channels, for example, that we can use the leadership team as a communication channel. And also, we can use the employees, people at the company. There are more and more influencers. And I think that these new communication channels are the future. Mm-hmm. So what we are implementing now are forming the future communications, and also how companies and leadership teams are engaging with their employees. For example, that now that people have to stay at home, companies realize that instead of only focusing on the future, which was basically in focus in the last couple of years, companies tend to go back to maintain the current employee force and to work on the current maintenance and positive attitude. So they are realizing that to build the future, it's not enough to think only about the future, but we have to think about what we have now.
Right.
And these things are still in improvement. And what is now, it's only an improvement phase, I think.
Gotcha. I mean, I like that. That's like a hint of optimism in the response. And you touched upon a topic that actually I'm interested to hear Guilherme weigh in on a little bit also, because there's a statement that actually did not make the Comms Debate 5, where we were talking about this kind of using maybe middle managers and leadership as a communications channel. So maybe you have something to add to that, and also interested in hearing, in more detail, why you agree that these changes are here to stay.
Perfect. I don't remember now the source, but I read a survey where 2/3 of the employees are looking for their managers to provide them with information on a topic that is touching them, rather than going through regular communication channels, right? Your go-to person on your day-to-day job is and always going to be your manager. Although 2/3 of them are being searched for more information, it doesn't mean that all of them are necessarily comfortable to provide information, or that they are that they have the right information to do that, right? So there is a bit of a change management / communication that has to be done with those managers, so that they can be leveraged as influencers or people that are replicating information. I agree with the statement, because From a customer perspective, for example, we in supply chain, we have a lot of site visits, and with COVID, it wasn't possible to do so. So one thing that we had to immediately enable was for our customers to do more virtual tours. Our business couldn't stop, right? And from an employee perspective, I think Corona brought some challenges, but made us look at other perspectives as well. For example, we have a lot of employees that do not work in front of a computer. When parents go on maternity, paternity leave, they do not have access anymore to information from the company. So we had already an app in the pipeline of internal comms or in the organization to roll out to enable anyone with a mobile device can access the information. You don't need a laptop anymore. Mm-hmm. And that was a way to engage with people that were on furlough or on maternity, paternity leave. So it was an array of challenges and things that we realized, not necessarily as a result of COVID, but that also got bundled and included in new opportunities in the organization.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, some of the things you highlighted there, kind of making sure that you're still engaging with people despite whatever might be going on from a global pandemic standpoint. It's so important to keep
it's essential.
Those lines of communications open. And, I think we could talk about this for days, and I would want to move on to the next one, but there's such a great question by Lizzie in the chat that I need to bring this up to hear what you guys think. How do you think COVID-19 will improve the annual office/Christmas party? Improve or like hit there, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts?
So I'm happy to share one of the we're doing that in our actually Latin America, LAC Caribbean region, which is to not quite a party, but a bit of a holiday parade in cars where employees will drive up to a specific location in a park. They will be handed a holiday gift. At the same time, from their trunk, a gift for a charity will be removed. So it's a bit of an exchange. They get something from Mastercard, and then they are also given the opportunity to provide something to a family in need. And there will also be, I believe, a prize for the best decorated car. So it's not exactly a coming together, but it's the kind of thing that I think very creative the team came up with, can certainly be live streamed, and I think has kind of a feel good factor for all involved. So not the holiday parties of the past, but then again, those have been of the past even before COVID. So
true.
Great question. Fun question.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm sure like Lilian, you guys probably have really good responses to this too, but I think in the interest of time, unfortunately, let's go on to the next statement. We have quite a bit to get through here before the end, so I think we can go ahead and keep moving on to the next statement, which reads, culture is primarily defined by how companies communicate. Primarily defined by how companies communicate. Interesting statement. Kerri, how about you lead us off with this one? Do you agree or disagree?
Sure. I disagree. And I disagree because the word is primarily instead of partly. And I'll to elaborate on that after after my colleagues respond.
Awesome. All right. How about Liliana? How about you?
I also disagree.
Disagree. All right. And Guilherme, how about you?
I disagree as well. I think primarily it's too strong of a word to be in that sentence.
So we have a clean sweep of disagrees, and of course, what it looks like is the kind of hold up here is the word primarily. Now, obviously, culture can be defined by how companies communicate. And Kerri, you alluded to the fact that it's partly involved. Maybe you can expand a little on that response.
Sure. Listen, I think one of the pitfalls that we as communicators can get into is for listening to the folks who say, listen, go communicate about culture. Culture is really about the behaviors and the norms and the decisions that are made every day that inform how we hire, fire, promote, demote, reward, recognize employees, and how leaders behave, how people behave rather, those expectations. If we lead with communication and not behavior, we are doing ourselves a disservice as communicators to our audience, which are our customers, employees. And so I think it's a huge mistake to not let communication get ahead of you. I would actually much rather see a groundswell effort of focusing on demonstrating those behaviors than communicate, which is usually the sort of opposite of what is typically what we typically do. We have a saying here kind of that we're going from values on our walls to behaviors in our halls. And we really do focus on that. Having said that, I think communication is a reflection of culture. You know, do you use humor? Do you use a corporate kind of tone or a more informal tone? So all of these things can, I think, support or reflect culture, but I don't think they define it.
Awesome. And like a bunch of good statements there, kind of like rolling statements about how this can affect how essentially communications does affect culture. But yeah, obviously, probably maybe not the driving factor. But I'm also interested in hearing, maybe Liliana, maybe you want to expand on, you know, why you disagreed with this.
I disagreed because in my brain, it's actually a little bit kind of vice versa. So how a company communicates is defined by the culture. And as also Kerri said, one primary thing is behavior. And I also would add what a company does and why they do it. It defines the culture. So, for example, what they do and why for their employees, for their customers, for their communities. And then if there is, for example, trust and transparency, then communications can come in and tell those stories about all the things that a company does and why they do it.
Yeah, trust and transparency, also a huge topic in, you know, the communication, and, you know, communications as a function of driving that trust can't be and transparency cannot be understated. Guilherme, how about you? What's your take on this?
I sympathize a lot with what Kerri explained. I think it's very, culture is very behavioral. And it's how you approach things. I'm sure that each company has their own way to communicate that. For us, it's like head, heart, and guts. You know, it's how you attribute things. It's called our leadership attributes. It's how you are perceived in your organization, how you lead, how you communicate. It's basically a common understanding that we have around the topic. And communications is much more a reflection of that, or almost a channel and shaping the message, and how you do that on, if it's an engaging, creative, in a way that people can participate, be part of, feel that they are part of something. That's what we are doing. I think it's more from an enablement perspective rather than background or the primarily definition of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. We codify our culture as the Mastercard way. And there is someone on my team directly who we help sort of articulate those behaviors hand in hand with our people and capability partners. And then, as you said, kind of enable it and tell those stories of our colleagues who are demonstrating that. And I think we have a big role in helping to really sort of get that message out there and tell those stories. But so I totally agree.
Yeah. Like bringing up one of these questions in the chat from Angela here, the kind of tone of voice in communications, and maybe how that can affect the culture, or the culture of a company. Does that play a role, like casual versus corporate tone of voice in communications? Do you guys see that as being a major, like, do you have to decide either or can you do a mix of both? What's your take on kind of the tone of voice in communications?
If I may,
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Liliana. I mean, this is something that I really like to look at. I think that lately we are leaving that corporate language more towards organizational announcements, right? And how they are set up, and announcement of people in the organization. But I have KPIs supporting me, at least in my case, where language does make a difference. If you manage to make the content relatable, and that will only happen through a casual language or informal setting, right? How you write in a creative way to engage people in the process, it's the only way to make it relatable. So I do see a trend of escaping the corporate language. COVID didn't impact that necessarily. I think that what COVID brought is more of the personal experiences. We had a weekly meeting for our steering committee around COVID, and every meeting was starting with a personal moment that everyone was sharing in each of the rounds, to make more relatable, to make more personal. It's something that is affecting all of us. So I think that those kind of things are important and definitely changing in large corporations.
Awesome. Liliana, you were about to jump into something too here. Do you want to expand on what Guilherme was talking about?
I completely agree with my fellow comms professionals, and I only wanted to add that and to agree that now the voice, the tone of voice is going more to a relaxed wording and more casual. And also my excellent colleagues at Iron Mountain are working on a great plan to change our tone of voice that we are implementing, and we are not only encouraging communicators but also managers and at every level to start to use this tone of voice and make conversations simpler and more relaxed.
Yeah, that generates more conversation typically when you can kind of be a little more relaxed. All right, great, guys, thank you so much for your input here. I think we can go ahead and move on to statement number 3. And statement number 3 is also a fun one. Anyone can become an internal communications professional. And of course, you may be noticing a trend here. We've been primarily drives culture, or anyone can. So we're very, going to the extremes here. Liliana, maybe you want to start us off here and tell us whether you agree or disagree with this statement.
I disagree.
Right.
And this is because I'm sure that someone has to have some special skills to become an internal communications professional.
All right, let's dig on those skills in just a minute. All right, Guilherme, how about you?
I'm an optimistic. I will say that I agree, given the right conditions, right? I mean, if someone wants to become, that's the first thing, wanting to do so, and they present themselves with the right training and process around that, yes, anyone can become an internal communications professional, as I can become a doctor if I want to, if I put my head towards it. Or you can become a grill master on weekends, like I am on my weekends at home.
And talents. I personally still have a dream of playing professional basketball in the NBA one day, but I might have passed that. So we'll see. Kerri, how about you? Agree or disagree?
So I agree. I agree as well. I don't think I'm in a position I would never say to someone, what they can or cannot become. Maybe what they can or cannot do if it's my children. But in terms of this, I think that, similar to what Guy was saying about, look, if you have the passion and the work ethic and the willingness to learn, there's probably a role for them in internal comms because of the breadth of what the work is in internal comms.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe they're a great project manager. And so we need people like that to manage work stream global campaigns, or maybe they're analytical and they can help us with data and insights. Maybe they're just incredibly creative and they come up with innovative ideas. So I think that, again, with those skill is the right skill and mindset and a curiosity, I think we'll get someone very far.
Yeah. Yep. I like this because not only did we get some differing responses here, but also the chat is going off and people are having differences in opinion here. So maybe let's start off. Let's open up for some broader discussion. Liliana, you mentioned that there are some specific skills that you need, and that's why you kind of tended to disagree with this. What kind of skills are you talking about here?
I sometimes call them superpowers that we have.
Superpowers, nice.
So the internet communication superpowers are based on the natural ability to communicate and the natural storytelling capability of someone. So if someone is a little bit, shy already as an adult, and it's not a natural storyteller or a natural listener, then for those people it's difficult to support other people in communicating. And I also think that the other superpower is to be able to think with the mind of the audience. So it's really important for a communications professional to listen and to summarize and translate messages to be able to sell those messages to the audience. And for this, you have to be able to think as the audience thinks. And also another superpower is coordination. So if you are able to communicate, tell stories, if you are able to listen, then you also have to be able to be a good coordinator and be someone who has attention to details, because sometimes you don't even have to communicate, you just have to connect the right people. And then you will see if you still have to communicate and what you have to communicate. So I'm sure that to become a really good internal comms professional, you need some superpowers.
I like that. I think you just came up with, the 3 traits or the 3 superpowers of an internal comms pro. They're, storytelling and listening and coordination, like things that you need. So that's something, that's something that I wrote down, and hopefully everybody in the audience writes down as well. G and Kerri, that was a pretty good response. How are you guys going to respond to that? You both agreed with this statement. Either one, go first.
Kerri, please. I'm a gentleman. No, I do have some remarks that experiences that I have had that I think that backs up my opinion on that, if I may, Kerri. I don't know if you know or if you have ever done insights. It's basically this behavioral test to understand what is your lead color, and there are 4 types: people that are more analytical, people that are more people-driven. And I have a small team, 4 people, and funnily enough, we end up each one in a different quadrant of those colors. I do think that there is a role for someone that is introverted, that is more analytical, and that is executional. I have someone like that in my team that she doesn't feel comfortable on having a big audience and talking to people, but she's great at that. Let me sit back, correlate things, think them through, and she can come up with something great out of it. I have someone that it's extremely creative and has new ideas. Sometimes I have to stop her a little bit, like, wait, have you considered, I'm the negative person in that role, like, have you considered this? Did you cover that track on that? And come up with new ideas that not necessarily she can execute them, but she's out there looking for new things, how to execute them, how can we do things differently? And then once we have passed that idea management part, you can give to someone else for the execution piece. So I do think that there are many roles in communications: strategy, program management, as Kerri mentioned, creative work that has to be put into it, analytical work. We also have KPIs. It's not a fluffy function. So I do think that given the right set of skills, of course, anyone can develop themselves into an internal comms professional.
Yeah, what he said. One thing I would just add is, I started my career as a clinical social worker. So I used to do counseling with, troubled teenagers. And then I was a management consultant. And then I worked in an agency. And so one might say, well, there's some relatedness between all of those things to get to communications. But I think the beauty and the power and the impact of communications really take shape when you have a diverse set of skills. But I think to Liliana's point, there are some core skills that you would want to have on your team. And I think all of us would probably in large agree on what those are. But it's not to say that those can't be developed in somebody who has the curiosity, the willingness, and the passion.
So as long as you have a tendency to be, a superhero, you might be able to pick up those skills.
That's right. Throw on a cape.
Exactly. I still, so with this in mind, now I'm gonna put on my sneakers and try to make the NBA. So we'll see what happens. Guilherme is hopping in and out, but he's back too. I think we can keep this moving. We again, in the interest of time, I see there's a lot of great questions here in the chat. Hopefully we can get to some of those in the next statements as well. But I think to keep the party rolling, let's go ahead and move to statement number 4, which reads, internal comms can't deliver real results if they are not involved in the development of strategic initiatives. Now, this is there's quite a bit to unpack here in this statement. But quickly, if we make a round robin of agree or disagree, Guilherme, maybe you want to start us off and tell us whether you agree or disagree with this?
I disagree with the statement. As you said, there are a lot of things to unpack on that sentence. I do think that we can deliver results if we are not involved, but I think we can deliver better results if we are involved, and that's why I disagree with the statement.
Gotcha. All right, how about Kerri next? Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I would disagree as well, and I think kind of going back to the manifesto of my team or the mission of my team to educate and inspire and engage and connect employees. Part of our job is to say take something. And, it also depends on what kind of results you're looking to deliver, right? If you're looking to make sure that everybody is aware of them and understands them and they're clear, more communication type objectives, then we can certainly deliver results. But it's certainly better to be
okay, you might have cut off there towards the very end, but I think we all know which way you were trending there. Okay, thanks, Liliana. How about you? Agree or disagree?
I agree with this statement, and I think that my answer will come also from the previous statement, because every strategy has an audience or stakeholder. So if you don't have internal comms involved while you are planning and working out your strategic initiatives, and your aim is to reach one of your audiences, then you can't get the real results that you want to have.
Right. I was hoping we would get at least one agree, because of course this is one of the aspects. This is really been talked about a lot, especially this year with COVID and the kind of expanded interest on internal communications, is the ability to drive results, the ability to be that kind of strategic business partner. Like Angela's saying here, the ultimate struggle of internal comms is getting a seat at the planning table. So maybe, I don't know, Kerri and Guilherme, you guys both kind of said that there is a way to deliver results, even if you're not necessarily involved in the strategic initiatives. Obviously, both of you guys do feel like it's better if you're a part of that. But what's the approach to delivering these real, these key results that move the needle forward for an organization?
I would just offer that I think you have to understand what the perceptions are of the strategic initiatives that you're looking to drive. So how close or far, how enabled or non-enabled do employees feel to be able to drive those? And so if you understand what some of the barriers or the obstacles are to their success, and you understand what some of the drivers are, then you can use those to kind of feed those back to the senior leaders who are orchestrating and architecting those. And at the same time, you can make sure that your communication is is on point and understands that sentiment, and that's reflected in how you communicate about those initiatives. If that makes sense.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Guilherme, so I'm interested in hearing because you were. It sounds like there's a lot of knowledge behind that initial response. So maybe you want to expand on where you were going with that.
When we started our digital transformation journey in the organization, it's a very IT driven topic, and you know how IT is. They talk with IT people, they don't talk with the entire organization, and that was one thing that I quickly realized when we were defining the technologies that we were going to focus on and how we were going to communicate that, how we were going to do the change management around that. And then I started seeing the names of those technologies. For example, this is a very practical example that I had, material handling automated guided vehicle. I mean, like, what is that?
I deal with those all the time.
How an employee will understand what is that? So one of the exercises that I wanted to do with the team, and that I had the great opportunity to do so, is right at the beginning of the program that we started to already start bringing how that information will be perceived by the employee in a way that they can understand such a complex topic. And then we still have complex names, don't get me wrong, but at least for one example that I can give is like we have assisted picking robots. It's a simpler way. It's assisting the picking process in the warehouse, and it's a robot. That it is positioned in a way that people can relate or at least understand to what we are talking about. How is this impacting the organization? So I think examples like that of considering the end user, considering the audience that you're speaking with, it's important to have that already in that leadership round of how we are setting ourselves up for success in the organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And it's really interesting to hear, for example, how DHL stuff like that is communicated and like how you handle that, because that is a complex topic you're talking about. It's not an everyday issue. Liliana, you obviously you said that you agree with this, and you kind of tend to agree that it does make sense to have, or like the results will be stronger, obviously, if you do have a seat at the kind of the proverbial table. Maybe can you expand a little on where you're going? What are your thoughts around kind of having communications involved in the strategy process? And there's actually a question here that you might be able to answer from Scarlett, talking about what are the benefits of having communications involved from the start in this kind of strategic process. You were talking about audiences in the beginning, but maybe you can kind of expand on those a little.
Yes, of course. So if you have communications at the table, then you immediately have the audience perspective, and you can agree on strategic initiatives based on what your stakeholders need. And for example, a finance person won't necessarily understand the needs, how a strategic initiative should be implemented. They are focusing more on the results. Mm-hmm. And what, for example, G mentioned, if we take, for example, change management, so if there is a strategic initiative which involves change management, sometimes by the time the project team, let's say, informs communications that there is this thing coming, and you should do change and communications, the comms person can say, okay, I can do the communications, but who is doing change management? Who is your project manager for all these things? So at that stage, when the project is already ongoing, they realize that there is no one to deal with change management. While if you have comms at the beginning, involved in your project or in your strategic initiative, then, as I said, the communications person can help you to get all the different views and help the project team to get all the building blocks that can support the initiative. And to have these building blocks from the start, so the added value can be that the project can kick off and go in a smoother way. So you won't find yourself that maybe in 3-4 months' time, you realize that a change manager is missing from the project team.
Yeah, I could hear Guilherme kind of in the back going like, it's too late. It's too late at that point. Some communications trauma coming through there. Awesome. Thank you guys for the input here. I think, again, in the interest of time, let's keep going. We have 15 minutes and 2 statements left to go. So I think let's keep going on to statement number 5. Thanks, Lily, for opening up and expanding a little on that answer. That was super. That was, a very tangible example that you gave right there. All right, but statement number 5 reads, the most important skill for communications is still copywriting. Now, we did a whole session on the importance or how to write copy in internal comms and how to write so that your employees want to read. But interested to hear if you guys agree or disagree with the fact that is this the most important skill? Kerri, how about you go first? Agree or disagree?
Yeah, these absolutes in these statements make it very provocative, Alex. I know you had your you worked these a little bit. So look, I would disagree with this statement. That being said, I do think writing, and I say writing and not storytelling, which might be a little controversial, but I'm happy to expand on that a little bit later. But yeah. I do think it's a very important skill is writing. I wouldn't say copywriting.
Gotcha. So the difference distinguishing between copywriting and writing here. Okay, I want to definitely dig on that in a bit. All right, Liliana, how about you? Do you agree or disagree?
I disagree, and I agree with Kerri that writing is important, but copywriting and writing are not the most important things.
All right. Okay, Guilherme, how about you?
We have a quorum. I also disagree. I not necessarily with the most, and copywriting. I agree with Kerri. Storytelling. There are other things and other ways to look at it that definitely impacts that statement.
Right. Yeah. These absolute statements, of course, causing you to flip one way or another. All right, but maybe if we start breaking that down, Kerri, let's lead with you because you said you were making a difference between copywriting and writing, and maybe if you can expand on that, and then gun to your head, if there had to be one skill, what would it be? What would you choose?
Oh, the violence in that.
Okay. I was looking for a better analogy, but
that's all right. That's all right. So look, I do think writing is a skill in communications that will never go out of style. And storytelling is incredibly important. I'm a big believer in it, in the power and the influence of being story miners, storytellers, and co-creating with our employees and all of that stuff. But look, my kids can tell me a great story about sort of why they weren't able to clean the rooms before they go outside, and they're sort of waxing poetic about it. And all they had to say was, look, I'll clean my room, but I'd like to do it when I get back inside in an hour. Is that okay? So I in that case, I really value something a little more succinct. I don't want a whole story. When there's a big org change, I want to be communicated to simply. I want to understand the why, and I want it to sort of be crisp and in a way that I can understand it. So I think that, again, whether it's storytelling that talks about employees who've overcome challenges, who've driven business results, or something that is a message about our business strategy that might be told in a more either creative way or just very simply put. When I think about the racial reckoning that has happened in the United States and in other places around the world this year, it was time to sort of communicate in a different way. And it wasn't just about selling something or influencing, but it was around being very real. And so writing is at the core of all of those things, I think. And so, and again, whether it's writing or inviting people to an event, a storytelling, an executive communication, our podcast, there's some writing behind it, which starts with some clear thinking. And so, gun to my head, I think I would say writing, but copywriting feels a little too limited for me.
All right.
Copywriting is very executional, right? It's just, the strategic thinking already has been done. The priorities have been chosen. The key message has been chosen already. So copywriting is just an executional piece. So I don't think it's the most important skill. I read a comment by Holly Johnstone. She was saying that when she is communicating something, that she asks a lot of questions, and that is something that it's important for her, no matter how complex the topic is. So based on Holly's comment, I would say that the most important skill that a communicator might have is actually curiosity. It's to ask questions, is to challenge things. You need to understand first before being able to communicate something, and that will only happen through asking questions. Of course, asking the right ones is just not asking questions, but that thinking behind it, it's extremely important.
That's awesome. So like you're kind of going more into almost, maybe something that Liliana touched upon earlier, also the kind of the listening side of things. So not just, asking for the sake of asking, but, actually being interested in what you get out from there. Liliana, I'm also interested to hear from you based on, what's been discussed. Now, it kind of sounds like, you mentioned three superpowers in the beginning. I think there were storytelling and listening and coordination. But if you had to choose, and of course, feel free to also weigh in on the statement here. But if you had to choose, what is the most important skill for communications?
Maybe we can add this one as a superpower. So as I agree with Kerri and G. Yeah. Of course, and I've been thinking while you were talking about it, and the next superpower that came into my mind is maybe care, because if you care, then you listen, you ask questions, you understand, you try to explain, you try to advise, and what nowadays, for example, apart from for us internal comms professionals, it's important to be able to be a good writer, is also to be a good advisor, because, for example, as internal social media is improving and getting more and more space inside the companies, and people are starting to tell their stories on their own, we are not writing the stories anymore, but right. we advise people how to write their stories, where and when to post those stories. So now we are moving from only writing also to advise on how to write and encouraging people. So I think that with social media, or our leaders, not only our employees, everyone is starting to write their own stories. So I'm sure that copywriting and writing is not the most important thing, but to care about people and to help them to write their own stories.
Yeah, I love the combination of the empathy, the curiosity, as Guy said. I have the writing, because if the writing does, that's in a way our superpower that I think, I don't want to, when I say writing, it's whether it's helping to shape a story in collaboration with an employee or somebody sending it in. But if we can sort of write stories also that people care about, and we lead with heart, and then we capture kind of that heart share and that mind share, I think there's, that's where sort of the fun and the magic happens as a communicator, because everybody likes to be an advisor, but at the end of the day, if that, how do you get that sort of out to the people? And I think that the writing sort of brings it to life, but without those other two, curiosity, to dig beneath, to dig into the details and to really understand, then that's, those three things together really make it come to life. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. And like Lorna in the chat is also talking about, has a good upvoted comment here, empathy, absolutely the most important skill for a communicator. So yeah, I do really think that as well, like writing, and I love also the fact that you guys made a distinction between copywriting and writing. That copywriting is what happens when you already kind of know what you're supposed to write about. Writing is, writing for the end user. So that's great. Well, guys, I think we have one more statement and 5 minutes to go. So I think we can go ahead and go on to the last great comms debate statement of 2020. I'm going to shed a tear here. The last statement reads, internal communications is not equal to employee engagement. And well, of course, we know, like if you read any of the Gatehouse surveys and a lot of, research around internal communications, we know that employee engagement is a very important topic for internal communications, but is it equal to employee engagement? So the statement again, internal communications is not equal to employee engagement. And Liliana, let's start with you. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, it's not equal.
This is a tricky one. I'm trying to trip you up here. So, okay. Agree. How about Guilherme? How about you?
It's definitely not equal.
So,
internal communications can be a little bit transactional, and employee engagement, it has more to it.
Right. So you're also in agreement that it's not good.
Yes, I agree that it's not.
Yeah. Kerri, how about you?
Yes, I have to end on an agreeable note. I agree as well. I think, our job, one of the jobs that we have to do is to engage employees. It's really an activity as well as an outcome that we at. So it's interesting in that way, but I don't think they're the same.
Yeah. And look, guys, makes perfect sense. I'm interested to get your input kind of on how you see, like because employee engagement can mean a lot of things to a lot of people in internal communications or in employee communications or just in communications function in particular. I think actually, yesterday, when we were on the dry run and kind of rehearsing a little bit, we were talking about how we're not talking about employees, we should be talking about people. So kind of people engagement. So of course, people engagement is very important for the communications function. And I'm interested to hear from you guys, how does that play into your day-to-day role? Lily, maybe you wanna kick things off here.
Yeah. People engagement.
People engagement.
Yes. Because we are talking to people, and the whole company, what the company does, as we discussed it when we were talking about the culture. So it's the whole culture, what the company is doing and saying, and if there is trust, and if the company keeps what they say, these are all employee engagement. So all corporate social responsibility that the company does for the communities, diversity and inclusion, how the company deals with their people, and how people can trust the leadership team, how the leadership team is transparent, and internal communication can support all these activities. And make sure that if the company culture allows to keep this transparency and tell the stories about what the company is doing, and this is what increases employee engagement or people engagement. If people can see the stories and people can join and they can be proud of what the company is doing. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so it's basically making visible and making it enabling kind of the engagement side of things. So the people engagement side of things. That's
yeah,
really
absolutely. And it's everyone's job. It's not only internal comms job.
Yeah, exactly. So Kerri and G, I'm also interested to hear from you guys because so often internal communications is all maybe not synonymous with employee engagement, but it's a really kind of common topic in the field. What are you guys' thoughts on the interplay here between comms and employee engagement?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick because I know we're running low on time. I would just say we've sort of moved from satisfaction to engagement to advocacy, and Liliana was touching on that. But what we really are looking for is employees to be inspired to advocate for the brand, for the company as a place to work, as a place to do business with, and so forth. And as comms, our role is to do what we can to help tell those stories internally and then make them ready for external as well. Our internal stories do go external. And so I think it is part of our job for sure. But again, as Liliana said, I think everybody has a role. Your direct leader has a role in making sure that folks are engaged. And a number of things that do that. Communications is only one of them. Right?
Right. Exactly. Guilherme, how about you? How do you feel about what Kerri just said?
I agree with both, and if I might just add two things there that are just to complement is, I think it's a lot about the sense of belonging, for the reasons that Liliana mentioned, responsibility, diversity and inclusion, all those topics, and it also has to do with trust, which is what Kerri mentioned in regards to the leadership as well. If you have that trust established, you have people that are engaged into the organization, to stand for the brand, to collaborate with each other, and so on. But pretty much what they summarized already.
Yeah. Well, with that, guys, I think it's time to move on to our closing remarks. I think one interesting thing that got brought up here during this at the very beginning of the discussion and at the very end of the discussion was the fact or the concept of advocacy, getting employees to kind of promote your employer, your place of work is a great place to work at. And I promise you, this was scripted in no way. I didn't ask Kerri to say that. I didn't ask Gihan to ask the question, but we have a session on this very topic coming up in December. So kind of enabling this concept of turning your employees into your brand advocates. If you want to join that, I'm going to put a button on your screen right now for you to kind of click on and go directly to. Don't worry, if you click on that button, you won't leave the session. You'll still be here with us to hear our closing remarks. But if you want to hear kind of some experiences on how to enable this concept of advocacy and enabling brand ambassadorship, do join us in December. With that, guys, I think, let's move on to our closing remarks. It was amazing to have you guys here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Again, for everybody that was here, thank you also for joining and tuning in and asking all these great questions. Our chat was on fire today. I do, and I saw you guys answering people in the chat too. That was really cool. So we got some engagement there. If you're interested in following up with any of the speakers, their contact information is on the screen right now, as well as SMARPs. So, of course, if you're interested in learning more about the SMARP platform and how we can help you target and personalize communications to your workforce at scale, do reach out. We also, among other things, do enable that advocacy piece that Kerri was talking about. With that, guys, thank you for joining. Do you have any kind of closing remarks here? Any words of wisdom before we sign off?
Everyone, I recommend you to find your superpowers and stick to them. And remember that if something is not communicated, it doesn't exist. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Lily. Kerri and G, how about you guys?
I would just say, look, find one thing to celebrate and appreciate every day. If you do that, big or small, it'll make for a good work day and perhaps even a really happy life.
Curiosity is important. Keep people in mind, and you are in the right path.
Couldn't have said it better myself. with that, thank you everybody so much for joining. And yeah, we'll see you all at the next session. Have a great day or evening wherever you are. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.